The Walten Files is a series full of grief, terror, and horror. A timeline that stretches from the early 1940s all the way to upwards of 1982. From the establishment of cyberphone tech all the way to the events of Bunny Farm. This is the entire The Walten Files story. Every date, video, and audio log explained. The Walten Files is easily my favourite YouTube horror series, and I fell in love with it from over 5 years ago. From someone who grew up as just a fan of the series to now actually voice acting in episode 5, this has been a journey that I never expected to happen, but this is a video I always wanted to make. This is easily going to be one of my biggest and longest videos yet, so I hope you can sit back and enjoy as we are going to explain every single important date in the entire storyline, from all the way from 1943 when cyberphone tech was established by the Pooltricks to all the way upwards of 1982 with the events of Bunny Farm. Not only that is that I'm going to be delving into all the new dates that have come into play from episode 5, along with explaining each and every single video in the entire series. Without further ado, thank you so much for tuning in today, and make sure to like and subscribe if you like the Walten Files or anything to do with horror on YouTube, and sit back and relax and enjoy the entire Walten Files story. However, we need to break this up into chapters with this timeline specifically, so I've dedicated each chapter for each specific side of the story, and chapter 1 starts off a little bit small, but vastly, vastly important. We go to 1943, when Cyberphone Tech is founded by Jason Pooltrick. Cyberphone Tech was then inherited by Norman Pooltrick after Jason passed away due to a heart failure on March 19th, 1952. Cyberphone Tech is a company that makes advanced technology such as animatronics for various companies. As when we go to 1965, jumping a long time down the timeline, we learn that Jack Walten and Felix Kranken pitched the idea of Bond's Burgers to Cyberphone Tech, which then resulted in the creation of the company Bunny Smiles Incorporated. Cyberphone Tech then provided the materials for the showstoppers we know today, for Bon, Shah, Buzu, and Banny, and obviously, later on, Billy the Clown. 2 years down the line in 1967, BSI and Cyberphone Tech would establish a full partnership as Bunny Smiles Incorporated would then get fully underway and established. This would then lead on to the Bond's Burgers restaurant we know is so deeply important to this story we love today. And without further ado, that's just what we have for the business side of things. Jason and Norman Pooltrick are two individuals that are very vaguely alluded to in the series, as Jason is never normally mentioned, and Norman having kind of one or two bits of dialogue from Charles, and also a letter that appears in episode 4 regarding the disappearance of Susan Woodings.
So, I'm checking my notes right now. What's up to this?
Well, Norman said we should start testing the facial tracking feature, so we're going to have the robot walk around and see if it recognizes our faces.
Well, we checked that already. Jack brought in Molly here, and the council recognized them.
Well, yeah, but we're going to do a secondary test because the console seems to have trouble detecting the faces.
Oh, the test we did with Sophie, right.
Mm-hmm.
We added a ton of features into the models. We managed to even make them have the ability to walk and interact with the audience.
Both these individuals have been speculated to be possibly individuals that could be related to Bond. However, I don't think Norman Pooltrick makes any sense in that regard, as of course, why would he mention the whole thing of Susan Woodings going missing to Felix Kranken if he was the one that done it? For Jason Patrick now, it is of course something that's very, very interesting to know, as this character is actually fairly memed by the official team themselves, with multiple funny drawings being made over the course of the last few years. However, that is just what we have for the business side, specifically with the Patricks. However, the most interesting part for me personally is our mainline characters, which is the next chapter we must get into, as we'll now continue the timeline from the 1950s all the way up to the important year of 1974. In 1958, Jack Walten and Felix Kranken would conceive the idea of an animatronic children's entertainment business in college. A year later, Jack Walten would then go on to marry Rosemary Peony, who would of course become Rosemary Walten in marriage. We've seen multiple videos of their marriage tapes from episode 5, and it just shows how deeply in love they truly were. However, we now know from the secret video of episode 5 that Rosemary Walten was deeply, deeply affected by events in her early life, specifically with her family, causing her to detach from them and very much emphasize a relationship with Jack being her core fundamentals of her entire life. We see Rosemary Walten delve into this horrendous mental state through this secret video, as we see multiple entries of her diary showing how we go from all the way from the 50s all the way to the 70s. In 1960, Sophie Walten is born, and of course Sophie Walten is our protagonist in the entire series, well, very much alluded to from all the way from episode 1, with the death of Brian Stells being told that he thought I was her, of course alluding to Sophie. Sophie is of course our protagonist in episode 3 of Bunny Farm, and of course will presumably be our protagonist for season 2, as not only that, we see an updated look at Sophie and also Jenny at the end of the secret video in episode 5. 2 years after Sophie, Ed Walten is born, and of course we know his importance to the series, voiced by Peter Tries Rice Cakes, and we love how impactful Ed is specifically in episode 5, really providing a lot of the scares in that episode. And of course 1 year later is when it all kind of goes downhill for Felix Kranken, the co-founder of Bon's Burgers. And the reason for this is fairly unknown, as in episode 3 of Bunny Farm we go into this section where Sophie looks at these kind of audio logs along with these notes left by Linda Kranken. This is Linda's notes to Felix after she divorces him. Now, of course, this timeline can get confusing if you don't fully understand each character. However, Felix Kranken is of course the co-founder with Jack Walten and had delved into a massive drinking problem at this point. The whole series is kind of this PSA for drinking problems and alcoholism, but when it comes to Felix Kranken, it becomes a little bit more serious. A lot of these writings and a lot of these diary entries that Linda has left for Felix are still to this day remain censored, and we still don't know the full story. However, I'm sure with episode 6 coming along the way, this will probably give us some sort of idea of what Linda said to him. As in the timeline of this being 1963, we're still around 10 to 11 years before the car crash actually happens and the inciting incident of this entire series comes into play.
Huh? I shouldn't be reading this.
But of course, with future theories, we'll then little by little figure out what this could have been, of what incident with Felix could have left him in this drunken state for the next 10 years. However, 1 year later, on October 30th, this is when Linda's pieces of diary entries have actually been revealed to us, noting that drinking problems have very much settled into Felix's life and his work is starting to consume him. This date specifically is noted for a reason. I feel like the rest of these censorships and these diary entries of course have really important meanings, but this one specifically giving us an exact date of entry along with giving us a full story really does emphasize that, hey, this drinking problem was from all the way in the 60s and didn't just originate in 73 or 74 with stress from Bonsberger's establishment. This is a big problem for Felix Kranken. And of course, with episode 6 being called Behind the Smiles, I would very much expect that we will get some level of establishment with this drinking problem. However, it'll be very, very interesting to know if we get anything at all from the 60s in season 1 whatsoever. On August 22nd, 1965, Molly Walten is born, and that kind of establishes the full Walten family. You have Jack, Rosemary, Sophie, Ed, and Molly. This would be our core family of this entire series, and of course, the family that gets ripped apart piece by piece. We jump all the way 2 years down the line to April 15th, 1967, which is when Felix records the audio log of Company Greeting.
Hello, my name is Felix Kranken. I just want to greet all of you to the company. Me and my friend Jack are both very excited about working with all of you. Here at Bunny Smiles, we believe that all it takes to achieve our dreams is hope. Would you like to achieve this dream with us? Great! As of now, our team isn't very big, just like our budget. But hey, we have hope, and in my opinion, that's all that matters.
This is of course one of the main intros of the entire series in episode 1, explaining that we will see that Felix is so grateful to all the employees for establishing a partnership within the company and working for them. However, these audio logs, specifically in the tape called Guilty, which is an unlisted video, is definitely something to note. On October 10th, 1970 is when we start to build our brand of characters that we come to know, with October 10th, 1970 being the hiring of Charles Brooke as the computer supervisor for BSI. This is easily, of course, my favorite character in the entire series, but most importantly, he is a very important character himself, which will only deem to be established in episode 6. As of course episode 4 was about Susan and kind of Felix in a way, episode 5 being predominantly Rosemary, episode 6 with being Behind the Smiles is a way more business side of things, and I think that's where Charles will come into play. But of course, that's a theory, but when it comes to episode 6, when it comes to Charles being the only victim we have never seen been established yet, that's where it will come into play, I'm pretty sure. However, just before Christmas on December 10th, Felix then records the Christmas message, which is of course once again heard in Guilty.
Greetings, Felix here. I really just wanted to give all of you dedicated BSI employees a small farewell message. I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas and a wonderful New Year's Eve. I hope to see all of you in a few months. It's crazy how far we've made it. Just everything, really. The Cyberfund tech deal, the Bonds Burgers project, it's incredible. I never thought we would have made it far, and I'm proud of all of us. Y'all should feel proud too, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing all of you next year.
On December 26th, one day after Christmas in 1970, Rocket is built by Jack Walten and then given to Molly. We find this out from, of course, Linda's episode 3 diary entries once again. It is still to this day unknown exactly when Rocket was completed, but of course this was a Christmas present from both Jack and Felix to Molly. And it is stated in episode 5 that Molly had a previous stuffed animal or some level of toy. When it came to Molly, we got to see these innocents with her, as we find out she wasn't able to sleep without her stuffed animals. However, this is when Rocket comes into play, as Jack specifically states to Rose that as soon as Rocket comes in, she never had a problem sleeping after that.
Do you remember that stupid crocodile doll that Molly used to have. I remember when she lost it.
Manny?
Yeah, she wouldn't sleep. It was so annoyed. We were all awake for days.
That stupid doll. She wasn't able to sleep without it.
But then, if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have Rocket.
Right. She was so fascinated. And she never had trouble sleeping again.
Yes, exactly. And she loved Rocket much more than that crocodile, right? I guess what I'm trying to say is you can always make something good out of a bad situation. Those little moments, hold on to them forever.
This shows the utter appreciation and utter sadness when it comes to the death of Ed and Molly Walten when it comes to 1974. When you see how established they are with this rocket animatronic, you see Jack and Felix have built this animatronic to purely help Molly just be a kid. Of course, with Felix being an establishing person on making Rocket, that makes the demise ever so more depressing. Guilty is easily one of the most important episodes in the entire series to me, as we definitely see the most characterization we've seen for Felix Kranken. I feel that Felix Kranken is one of the characters in the entire series where, hey, we actually don't see a lot of his characteristics in episodes. We see them more in secret episodes, and even more so in the secret video for episode 5 called My Soul. When it comes to Lacrimosa, and also when it comes to Lucky You, we don't really see a lot of Felix, but when it comes to Guilty, being a specific tape all about Felix's audio logs that we still don't know where they're held, by the way, theories then state that is, of course, that box that appears repeatedly throughout the series, specifically in the back room. However, when it comes to Felix in both Guilty and My Soul, we see his characteristics in full. We see how cowardly he is. We see how stubborn he is. We see how ultimately smug he is, especially in the audio log of My Soul.
Would you care to elaborate on that?
Come again?
What were you doing inside of the restaurant at 4 in the morning?
This is some kind of joke.
What's a joke, Mr. Kranken, is throwing a fit about search warrants and denying my men entry, all the while actively hindering an investigation into one of your own colleagues when she could be God knows where by now. That's the damn joke, Felix, okay? Surely you see how bad this looks, don't you?
Look, Derek, we have nothing but the utmost respect for you and the boys in blue. But listen, we're a family business, and we pride in having built a place of good fun and safety. You can see why we wouldn't want the police making a scene in a place that brings nothing but joy to the community.
You're not answering my question. Point blank, what were you doing in Bond's Burgers in the early hours of July 20th?
Look, I gotta admit, things have been pretty tough for me lately. I was sleeping there.
You were sleeping there?
Yes, that's correct.
I see. And do you usually sleep in the restaurant, or is this, a little triced?
Look, this whole ordeal has been horrible on this town. It's hurt us too, more than anyone. But this place, this company, it brings hope and happiness to people. Surely you understand, right?
However, we end up jumping 3 years to January 3rd, 1973, which is stated, of course, by Linda in her diary entries once again, that Felix becomes absorbed by the project of Bond's Burgers, and the drinking becomes even worse, to the fact that Felix would go into work purely to drink. And this is when it begins to start going down very steep for Felix Kranken's drinking problem. However, it is then we go to a time in the timeline that is specifically unknown in terms of an exact date, but in 1973, Bond's Burgers is built. This is, of course, the establishment where it all takes place. The most important location, as of right now, in the entire series, other than Wonderland, if you want to be really specific with it. However, that leads us in to 1974, which is, of course, the most important year in the entire series. A year where it seems that nothing goes right. A year of trauma, a year of depression, a year that is so deserved of its own chapter. The year that is the inciting incident of this entire series. The year that changes the Walton family's life forever, and the year where Felix Kranken really delves into his alternate persona. And that is the year of 1974, where the Walten Files' incidents all take place. When it comes to 1974, this is not just the year of everything going wrong. This is also the year where the animatronics are specifically built by Susan Woodings. As in January 1974, Banny is built. Banny is the first of the showstoppers to be built. Quite ironically, how Susan, of course, makes the animatronics, and Banny is the first to be built, Susan is the first to be killed, and who does she get stuffed into? The first suit to be made. Kind of an interesting bit of foreshadowing, if you ask me. Then between January and February, you had the rest of the showstoppers of Bon, Shah, and Buzu. Which then we jump to January 21st, which is of course shown in episode 4, where we see Susan and Charles test the Cyberfun console. However, this goes wrong as Banny walks into tables, thus for making the test somewhat of a failure, along with Shah doing some facial recognition in late January to early February, which is then of course a very vague piece of timeline, but that is what we have in terms of notes right now. And it is said that Bon has a facial tracking test with Sophie.
I'm checking my notes right now. What's up to this?
Well, Norman said we should start testing the facial tracking feature, so we're going to have the robot walk around and see if it recognizes our faces.
Well, we checked that already. Jack brought in Molly here, and the console recognized them.
Well, yeah, but we're going to do a secondary test because the console seems to have trouble detecting the faces.
Oh, the test we did with Sophie. Right.
This to me is one of the key incidents in the entire series, as it is stated that a test with Sophie goes wrong. Now, this is where it all plays out for me. In my opinion, it is very heavily implied that this facial tracking feature goes wrong in terms of Bond not being able to recognize Sophie in terms of the facial tracking feature. However, it is said the test of the facial tracking feature on Ed and Molly went no problem, but with Sophie it specifically had an issue, which is then of course one of the main things in the entire series that gets Brian Stells killed, and that is what's super interesting to me, because you then know Bond's facial tracking feature never gets fixed. This is a problem throughout the entire rest of the series, that Bond can't recognize anybody else. And we see this in episode 1. We see when we see that weird face going with that weird sound. That is Bond trying to facial track Brian, and it fails. However, that's very far down the line in the timeline. However, we then jump to March 7th, where Susan and Charles test the facial tracking feature on Shah, with then April 30th of Rosemary talking about designing the showstoppers in episode 4.
I always had a pretty clear idea of how each character looked like in my mind. The designs just made sense to me. I wanted to make them seem appealing to a younger audience while still being simple enough so they can be easy to remember.
About a week later, on May 2nd, is where this would all change. Is the most important day in the entire series. A day that emphasizes everything wrong with the franchise of Bond's Burgers. A day that emphasizes the depression within Rosemary Walten and the Walten family as a whole. A day that changes Felix Kranken forever. The day that Ed and Molly were killed in a drunk driving car crash. The day is most emphasized not only in episode 3, but episode 4. As initially, Felix and Jack and others were at a warehouse, stated by Linda in her notes. Linda then decides to leave Felix. We see Felix's reactions in the diary entries themselves, praying for Linda to stay, begging for her to stay. She doesn't oblige. However, the spring party event at the school dance is being held today. Rosemary is bringing Sophie to the dentist, and Jack has to stay at the warehouse to work. Therefore, Jack then asks Felix if he can bring Ed and Molly to the dance, which he does. However, at the school dance there is an adults-only zone. This is where Felix spends most of the night, drinking away his sorrows. However, on the drive home, very heavily intoxicated, Felix attempts to drive Ed and Molly back home, with Molly and Ed repeatedly saying that they're driving too fast, but Molly saying it's going to be okay. However, at exactly 9:54 p.m., this happens.
On a cue, 30 minutes of non-stop rock. Turn it up. You come on like a dream.
How much is left till we get home?
Not much. Just kind of lost, I think.
Uncle Felix, were you drinking?
M-Y-Q.
Our teacher says drinking is not right.
No. I'm just feeling dizzy. It's not that big of a deal. All right.
Remember date 531. Flowers 522-4343. I got a zap coming up. Rolling stone.
I want to go home.
Molly, we're almost there.
Don't you think you're driving too fast?
Listen, I'm just trying to get you to I'm just trying to get you to home quickly, all right?
Zap coming right now. 10 till 10 for safety.
Look, I'm sorry. I'm not feeling too good right now. I really I just want to lay in the bed and go to sleep.
It's all right. We get that today wasn't the best for you. We understand. Everything is gonna be okay.
Thanks, Molly.
They didn't go home that night. He buried them here. He was too scared. But they found a way out eventually.
Felix crashes the car into St. Juana's forest, resulting in the death of Ed and Molly. However, instead of admitting to what happened, calling Jack, telling him what had just happened, that they got into an incident, instead, Felix decides to bury Ed and Molly in St. Juana's forest, with Rocket watching on, Ed Walten being 10 years old, Molly being around 8 to 9 years old. These little kids' bodies, Felix removed from the car, took them out, dug 2 graves, and threw each body inside. Then proceeded to get his shovel once again and refill the dirt on top of Ed and Molly's bodies, burying them deep within St. Juana's Reserve. With Rocket watching on, it is then stated from episode 3 that someone else saw this. It wasn't someone like Bond. It was Rocket himself. To which Ed and Molly's spirits rose from the ground and merged into one, inhabiting the Rocket animatronic rabbit. This is the first incident of the entire series that states some supernatural being present. As episode 3 alludes to this, we do see a show bear in the background of St. Juana's Reserve. This character is since proved to be not important to the lore anymore, but who's to say that character isn't being replaced by something else, and that other character has a level of importance. To me, someone may have seen Felix bury the bodies, but that's a very vague theory. Felix would then sit in the grave alone, a third grave he presumably dug for himself, as he sits there staring at Rocket the rabbit. While this all happens, Jack Walten is at home that night, wondering where his kids are, to no answer. Multiple missed calls, multiple voicemails, all ignored.
You have 25 new messages. Felix, pick up the phone. Now, I need you to pick up the phone. It's been 3 hours since I told you to get Ed and Molly home. What happened to my children? If anything happened, Felix, you must tell me. You haven't told me in 3 hours. I need to know what's going on. I'm trying to call you all night. What the hell is wrong with you? I've been trying to contact you all night. I've been calling everyone for you. Just what the hell is wrong with you? 3 hours, you didn't call. I asked you to do one simple favor for me. I need to know, where are they? Where did you...
To the point where Jack Walten gets in his car and proceeds to drive to Felix Kranken's house. He exits his car, angrily, full of rage, but ultimately full of worry for his own 2 kids. He stumbles up the porch of Felix Kranken's house and proceeds to smash on the door, calling out for Felix to show himself to where he is, proceeding to say that he knows where Felix is, he knows he's in there. Little does Jack Walten know, when this is all taking place, Felix Kranken is in St. Juana's, burying his 2 youngest kids. Jack Walten proceeds to say that if Felix has done anything to his kids, anything at all, he would kill him.
Open the door. Felix! Open up. Open the fucking door! Felix, please, I'm worried. Please open the door, Felix. Please open the door. Felix. Felix! Hey, what's the deal, Felix? Come on, Lord. I told you 9 p.m. I told you 9 p.m. Please. I'm calling this crew. I'm not. Just tell me that. I know you're here. If this is some prank you're trying to pull, I don't find it funny, so please. Don't make me drive over there, Felix. Felix, if you do anything to those kids, I'll fucking kill you. If you remember this story,
We then see the aftermath. The next day after Felix is in the grave, he proceeds to take Ed's shoe and Molly's backpack. As he stumbles to the cliff edge above the Clear Hill River, he proceeds to throw Molly's backpack and Ed's shoe into the river below. However, he takes a moment. He starts to feel that maybe the belongings of Ed and Molly aren't the only things that should go over into the river. As he steps ever closer to the edge, almost proceeding to throw himself off, to end all his pain right then and there. However, he decides not to. Instead, he sits on the cliff edge, holding the rocket animatronic rabbit, as nothing is on his mind more than what's going to happen to himself. This is the most important incident in the entire series. This is what starts it all. This is what starts Jack's rage. What is the origin of Rosemary's depression and grief? The origin of episode 5 in itself is because of this incident. And that's only scratching the surface. On May 8th, which is the day after the funeral of Ed and Molly, Rose, Jack and Sophie would all go visit the grave, all in varying states of mind. Rosemary, of course, being the most depressed, the most upset. Jack, still in shock, not knowing what to do next. But Sophie sits beneath an angel statue, confused, numb, but ultimately just wondering what's wrong with herself, of why she's not feeling more. A conversation in episode 5 proves this, as we see Jack and Sophie interact in a way where Sophie doesn't know what to do. Her two youngest siblings have both quote-unquote gone missing, and she doesn't know how to feel. She's not upset, she's not angry, she's not mad, she's not sad. But for some reason, she feels she should be. And that's what's mentally straining her.
Is in the art room.
Hey, is there something on your mind, princess? Sophie, you can talk to me about anything.
I don't want you to be mad at me.
Am I ever mad at you?
I guess I still don't understand why I can't feel the same way you and Mom feel about all this.
What do you mean?
Molly and Ed, I still don't feel anything about it. I know I'll never see them again, but I can't feel anything. It's like they're not even gone, just away. I feel selfish. They're my siblings, so what kind of person does that make me? Am I a bad person for thinking that?
Oh, Sophie.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You're not a bad person, okay? You're not a bad person.
After the event of the car crash, Felix then goes to the police station to confess about his actions. However, he leaves one key element of the story out of it. He goes to the police station and admits to the drunk driving incident. However, he states that after the crash occurred, he woke up and Ed and Molly were gone, ran off somewhere into the woods, as this could just be him deeming running away from his actions. When you go back to that scene of him throwing the items into the lake, into the river per se, you start to realize what his true intentions were. As episode 5 reveals from Derek Collins, the detective, that Felix was planting an alibi to get away with everything. He stated that he woke up in the car with Ed and Molly, both going somewhere, both gone, missing, nowhere to be seen, and that their belongings had been left and presumably had gone to the lake or into the river somewhere. In Lacrimosa, when we see the police find these items of the backpack and the shoe, it backs Felix's alibi. it all comes into place for Felix. Therefore, of course, him being the prime suspect, there is not probable cause to cause him to be arrested. He can get away with it. And, of course, the secret video of My Soul, months down the line, shows that he is still exactly like this.
Or is this, a little trice?
Look, this whole ordeal has been horrible on this town. It's hurt us too, more than anyone. But this place, this company, it brings hope and happiness to people. Surely you understand, right?
Well, Rosemary Walten is your friend, right?
Of course. Despite everything, she's still near and dear to us. Same goes for everyone else.
Everyone else? Everyone else? You mean Susan Woodings, Charles Brooke, Jack Walten? In fact, while we're at it, why don't we talk about them too, huh? Don't you think it's quite strange that 4... Oh no, sorry, wait a minute. I got my numbers wrong. 6 people vanish without a trace in the span of a month, all with ties to you?
Am I under arrest, officer?
No, Mr. Kranken.
I'll see myself out. Sorry I couldn't be of any use.
On May 5th, Felix would then record the aftermath of confessing to Jack and Rose, along with experiencing paranormal things within his household. This is all stated in episode 4.
May 5th. 3 days after the accident. I haven't been able to sleep since last week. I finally told him what happened. It was in my office. It was the longest hour of my life. The most painful conversation I've ever had. Pain in their eyes, the anger. They both hate me now. And I don't blame them. I have no idea what's going to happen to me now. My life, my business, everything. But the fact they're still buried down there, it haunts me every night. It's eating me up inside. Rosemary asked about the doll. I told her that they left it at school. That was a lie. I don't know what to do with the doll. Wherever I go, there it is, and I can't get myself to get rid of it. It's like a constant reminder of this huge mistake, and how there's nothing I can do to make it better.
Felix then says that Jack and Rose hate him now. Of course, very validly so. However, episode 5 reveals that Rose hates Felix that much more, as Rose begins to create the film Faces of Grief. This depicts a family of sheep, all depicting the Walten family. A man, a woman as a father and mother, 3 kids. However, 2 of the youngest sheep were taken from them, destroyed by the big bad wolf in a blue suit. A suit and colour that has always been established with Felix himself. This film shows the deep mental struggle that Rosemary is going through, but more specifically, this scene here. Rose is not just full of anger, she's full of resentment and rage. She wants to kill Felix for his actions. They all know that Felix had something to do with Jack and Rose's children going missing. They don't just vanish. And little do they know, they are still buried deep within the St. Juana Forest Reserve. The funeral had 2 empty caskets, stood upon an altar. Rosemary states all of this. She knows something more had gone on. Therefore, she wanted to take matters into her own hands in her film format, showing herself stabbing Felix repeatedly as the souls of Ed and Molly watch on in the sky. On May 13th, Susan and Charles would then talk about the incident. In episode 4, it both states that they're both suspicious and suspect that Felix is lying, as Rocket is in the same room.
What does that mean?
That's what I heard, man.
He was drunk while driving the car?
Lower your voice, alright? The funeral went down some weeks ago.
They didn't tell us?
It was private, Charles. Only the family were there.
Fuck. How's Jack holding up?
Haven't heard of him in a long while. I barely even see him at work.
You don't think Felix's story lied, don't you?
Story? I think it's bullshit. I think something else happened, man. Something worse.
God. To the dawn? Molly and Ed?
Listen. I don't even want to think about it. Specifically with that freaking fucking doll in the room.
What's it doing here?
Felix said it is. Told us not to tell Jack or Rose is there.
Shit.
I don't even want to be involved with this shit anymore.
Alright, let's just try the same way.
What's interesting to know also is May 18th, which is when the founder's photo is taken. The iconic photo of Felix and Jack shaking hands, which would then, of course, be split in half within the Relocate project. But it is interesting to note that that photo was taken after everything. That could possibly play into the whole pressing charges in episode 5. There's multiple incidents where, upon the funeral of Ed and Molly, Jack and Rose meet with Detective Derek Collins. This is where we find out the police reports, the Lacrimosa reports that we'd seen of them collecting all the evidence, but most importantly, a question Derek asks to Jack and Rose of will they press charges on Felix Kranken, to which Jack replies no instantly.
Kranken's story adds up. After the impact, the kids, most likely in a state of hysteria, ran into the dark and they fell into the river. Though we haven't found any bodies yet. I'm afraid to say there's probably no chance of them having survived given the circumstances. I'm sorry. We'll continue investigating, but if I were you, I'd take my time to process what's already been confirmed. Here comes the hard part. The DA forces me to ask you. Are you going to press charges against Felix Kranken?
No.
This incident is then brought up in Rosemary's diary. An incident where causes Rosemary to resent Jack. An incident where it causes Rosemary's feelings to spiral. A person she loves more than anything in life. Causing her to feel this sense of rage. Of why could he let him get away with this? To me, this is where Jack just wants to slip everything under the rug for the opening of Bond's Burgers. Which of course I will delve more into when we see the scene in episode 5 of Jack and Rose talking outside Bond's Burgers. On May 23rd, we get the establishment of a new character. And this is Richie. Richie records a message about being a new summer job worker.
Hey man, this is your coworker Richie from PSI. Felix probably mentioned me to you before. I don't think we've actually, met face to face before. But I look forward to working with you.
I'm working the night shift at the moment. Sorry, don't want this message, no. Sorry, you're not in any trouble or anything. Just saying hi. It's company policy. All employees gotta know each other so we can work more efficiently, I guess. I don't know. From what I've heard, I take it you've been working here quite a while, right? Summer job. Well, same here. Where was I? Right, some notes from last week's shifts. The arcade machine should be on their way by Tuesday, I think. We made a call with Starleys. Now they're going to be doing the installations themselves, so you don't got to worry about that anymore. Just trying to keep ambient friendly, and plus, you now owe me a favor. Just kidding. So, tech supervisor asks us to present the documentation of the animatronic state by tomorrow. So, better get that ready soon. And, I guess that's it. One more thing. I think we'll, properly meet on, Thursday, I think. Us giving us a tour of the installations. Not the ones that smell like tobacco, the other one. So, see you there.
And then on May 30th, Richie and Chris would then meet for the first time. To our early summer, Wade Barkley, who was one of the head chefs at Bond's Burgers, would then be hired. To where the end of June 1974, Billy the Clown is then built. 1974 is one of the most interesting aspects of this story, and specifically when it comes into play with the ending being of the establishment of Richie's character. Richie has multiple audio logs, which we'll get into in the next chapter. However, it is interesting to note that Richie plays a huge factor in this story. Whether or not they will show up again in episode 6, we don't know, but the establishment of Chris showing up in episode 5 could deem us to get some level of Richie in episode 6. But the next chapter is where the horror fully plays into fact. The next chapter goes into the disappearances of 1974, but most importantly, the death of Susan Woodings, the death of Charles Brooke, the death of Rosemary Walten, and the disappearance of Jack Walten. Before we go into June's events, we must go to May 22nd. This is the day where Jack Walten and Rosemary talk outside of Bond's Burgers, most notably mentioning that Jack wants to be a better, healthier person, as he lays and comforts Rosemary Walten. A sense of love between the two. To me, this whole establishment, this whole conversation, is what Jack wants to note, that the establishment of Bond's Burgers is a really big priority for himself. As he does state, before all the conversation plays in, the opening should go smoothly.
Well, it's just work as usual. I'm sure the opening will go smoothly.
Considering this is a man who had just lost his two youngest kids to the resulting of his co-founder, he seems awfully calm in a way. Jack Walten is easily the most confusing character in terms of his personality because his mood swings tend to be ecstatic. In episode 5, we see the most we've ever seen of him. We see this conversation with Sophie, how he sounds like this loving father to then instantly turning into someone who looks like he's full of rage and enduring an immense amount of sadness and depression that he's holding deep within. The same with this conversation with Rosemary. This conversation that seems like he is in control of himself. A sense where he is with someone he loves. A sense of him just comforting Rosemary to try and put any sort of mind at ease. No matter how bad he is, he just wants his family to be okay. But then when you fast forward in episode 5 to multiple days where, for example, after the conversation with Sophie, she gives him a hunting drawing that she made of him. His initial reaction seems shocked, but then he hides it to show love and appreciation to Sophie. But later on, a scene then states that he ripped the photo in half and he's in his office and study very much making a racket, stating that something is plaguing his mind.
Now it's all darkness.
We then go to June 11th. One of the most important days once again in the entire series. As the morning of June 11th, Jack Walten enters Ed and Molly's room. He enters Sophie's room. But then he gets ready for work. We see this sense of almost a happy montage of Jack before going to work. He has a conversation with Rose, as Rose just desperately wants him to stay. Rosemary doesn't want Jack Walten to go anywhere. She wants him to stay right where he's supposed to be, at home with his family. Instead, he decides to handle something small, but in the same sentence says that it's actually quite big, instantly giving a sense of confusion to the viewer of what he's actually going to do. Most importantly again, while leaving Sophie's room, he doesn't say see you later or I gotta go. He says goodbye. And of course makes a very interesting interaction with Mr. Snow, alluding to a possible sense of could that be him. However, he decides to leave Rosemary Walten there and proceed to go to work. He kisses her goodbye as Rosemary stands at the doorframe. However, a sense of transition shows that he doesn't come home at 7 p.m. that night. She stays and waits and waits and waits and ends up passing out by the door, causing to go asleep. However, she's then awoken by a phone call 2 days later, on June 13th. This phone call seems weird in a way. A phone call that's random of who could be calling at this time. Rosemary picks up the phone. However, it's someone she absolutely knows.
Hello? Hello?
Rose. Rose, can you hear me?
Jack? 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 Please come home. Jack, where are you?
I'm so scared that I need to hear your voice. Because... Oh God.
I don't know what's happening anymore.
God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Rosemary.
I can't do that.
I just wanted to tell you that everything is gonna be okay and that
Wait!
I love Sophie and that
Please!
I love you.
Jack Walten is on the other end, almost crying, apologizing, just wanting to hear Rosemary's voice. A sense of fear in his voice. A sense of, is he taking his last breaths there? An encounter that feels like we're supposed to be watching the final moments of Jack Walten on the 13th of June, 1974. We hear this almost weird tone of music behind his voice. A sense of, is he somewhere he's not supposed to be? He sounds like he's choking in some regard. A sense of coughing on blood, maybe. As all of a sudden, he apologizes to Rosemary. She begins to panic on what's going on as Sophie overhears this phone call. And sadly, Jack Walten hangs up the phone, and that's the last time we hear of him. Presumably, with June 13th being the death of Jack Walten. A few days would pass to June 18th, which is when Richie would then record another message about a bug infestation.
Hey, just wanted to update you on everything that's been going on over the past few days. So, for starters, I got paid the extra hours from last week, so that's nice. Right. So, did you get the memo? Or whatever? Apparently the lockdown was because of some infestation or something. You know, like bugs. So just a heads up, you can still kind of smell the chemicals and whatnot. What else? Right. It says here, from next week onward, all animatronics will be cleaned and checked by authorized personnel. Nobody else is permitted to go near them until further notice. So, that's one less thing to worry about with our jobs, right? Don't come to work on Monday. They're doing one more big cleanup to make sure there's no bugs crawling around or whatever. We wouldn't really want our customers eating a beetle sandwich, you know? Sorry. Yeah, that's all for tonight. You see any bugs in the next few days, just like whack them with a newspaper or something. They'll be fine. Anyways, see you around. Take care. Bye.
With a day later, we will then get the scene of Rosemary and Sophie going around the neighborhood, hanging up the posters of Jack Walten's disappearance, with one key element in the background. Someone with a disfigured face in a suit and tie watching from beyond the lamppost. This is now a reoccurrence in the series of Bond possibly hiding himself within the Walten family home and around them in some regard. This is a massive reoccurrence, and not only in episode 5, throughout the entire series. Another date that is not exactly concurrent, but between June 22nd and 27th, the Bondsburger commercial advertising the grand opening is then published. And on that same day of June 27th, Richie would then record to keep an eye on the polar maze, and that, for example, Bon is not performing due to quote-unquote maintenance.
Another day, another dollar, as they always say. Sorry, just ignore that. I don't know what I was doing. Okay, forget it. Tomorrow is the big day. You excited? Boss gave me some instructions to give you for today, so I'll get those in a second. I just want to say I put the chairs down, next to the tables, so just save you the hassle of having to do that tomorrow morning. So you're welcome. If you can, keep an eye on the poker maze. It's pretty easy for kids to get lost in there. So yeah, we just don't want anything like that happening. Just pop in every minute or so. Just make sure there's no kids crying, screaming. Actually, don't get lost in there yourself either. You're still a teen, right? How old are you again? It doesn't matter. Whatever. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Unlock the generator room. Clean the bathrooms, especially the men's bathroom. More on that later. Right. Keep the main stage curtains closed. For the time being, we transferred Shaw to the secondary stage for this week, so she'll be next to Buzu. The Bond animatronic won't be performing this week. He's they got to do an extra week of maintenance on him, so that's a shame. But nothing we can't fix. Luckily, we do have a costume, a Bond costume. The sister company gave it to us a while ago. So, if you want to earn some extra bucks, you might want to pop in that thing. Dance around, tell some jokes, whatever. Felix will probably tell you what to do. They're kids, they're stupid anyway, they won't notice. Just try ignore the smell. Right, that reminds me. Apparently some employee might have been smoking pot in the men's bathroom. So just don't mind the smell. Keep the windows open. Just try freshen up the place. Make sure Felix doesn't notice. I wouldn't want whoever that was, get in trouble. If they did smoke pot in there, which I doubt, but just in case. So that's it. Good night.
This is a very interesting topic to discuss. Bond is going through excessive maintenance, and this is after Jack Walton's disappearance, only emphasizing that, hey, maybe there is a possibility of Jack being stuffed into the Bond animatronic rabbit. The next day would be June 28th, the almighty opening of Bond's Burgers. However, in episode 5 it states the next day of June 29th, the day after Bond's Burgers is opening. We see Rosemary sitting in her own family home, on the piano, just playing one single tone. We then proceed multiple drawings of Rosemary's. We see one of Jack, two of Felix and Ed and Molly, with possibly Bond in the background. A Jack in Wonderland almost, with two red kids staring at Sophie, with Jack possibly being an angel, which will come up very importantly in episode 5 with the projectionist scene. Jack's lips were specifically red and wounded here. Maybe Jack's face is almost melting, possibly leading to his face being forgotten, as there's multiple scribbles on the canvas. That next day of June 30th would be, again, one of the most key scenes in the entire series. It's not a new chapter. It is a very key factor in this one, and that is the death of Susan Woodings, or most importantly, the attack of Susan Woodings. As we see Susan staying late to test Bond specifically, as the first birthday party is held on this same day. Susan would go to record audio logs, proceeding to note her findings and maintenance on Bond. However, upon trying to fix him in some regard, specifically noting his arms, this happens. The same day, Rosemary is fired from Bonds. Earlier on that day, she had entered the place looking for Jack, praying that he was hidden somewhere in the office. We all know this from Richie once again noting in his audio logs that a crazy woman, apparently, not even knowing Rosemary's name, has proceeded to enter the location screaming and looking for her quote-unquote missing husband. This once again shows the deceivingness and the deciphering of Felix Kranken, not even mentioning the Walten family name to his employees of Richie and Chris. Of course, Chris knows who Rosemary is, but Richie does not. And that is very, very interesting, how all the higher-ups in the Bondsburgers establishment is trying to sweep the Walten family name under the rug completely.
Hey, man. Okay, so we got some good news and some bad news. So I'll start with the good news. So boss is happy. He said we did good work. He said we did good work on the first week. You did a good job with the Bond costume, actually. I was surprised. I actually got it all recorded on film. So if you want, I can show that to you next week. Or I can use to blackmail you at some point in the future. Kidding. No, I wouldn't do that. I bet you're happy to hear. Bond will be back on stage by tomorrow. Yeah, Felix set it up himself, so, maybe they worked out the differences after all. Sorry, just trying to make another joke. Right, okay, on to the not so good news. We have a associate. I believe she does the art for the restaurant. She's been coming in a lot lately. She keeps going on about like her husband or something. She's not well. To put it lightly, I don't want to sound mean, but there's something wrong with her, and I believe you know her. You've been talking to her whenever she comes in. I appreciate it. I appreciate it, right? And I'm glad you are, helping her. But how do I say this? She's been let go out of the company yesterday, and so it's now a company policy that if a former employee makes any sort of drama inside the restaurant, they'll be permanently banned from entering. So if you see her again, just tell her to keep quiet. It's boss's orders. I'm sorry if that's insensitive. Okay. Lighter note. Nobody got lost in the maze. So, good job. You're a natural. Whatever. Okay. On with the bad news, I guess. More bad news. The backstage is now locked for the week. I asked staff for explanations, and they refuse to elaborate. So, Banny will be off the stage for a few days, so keep the curtain on Banny's stage closed. What else? All of the animatronics must be sent to the men's bathroom at night instead of the backstage. So, yeah. Let me know how you've been. I had a blast last week. I will say, you make a really good cook. I'll tell you that. So, yeah, see you tomorrow then. Good night.
The next day, on July 1st, something is going on in the restaurant. specifically late at night. But however, it has a very, very horrific tone, as Susan, with her snapped neck, is suffocating as she's stuffed into the Banny animatronic by Bon. She meets Bon in Wonderland. However, all of a sudden, the morning of that day, we get another audio log from Richie, stating that Bon perform again today. The backstage is now locked. As we've seen from the hidden music video, Banny is sitting there, lifeless, suffocating, and starving, as Susan lies within, waiting for time to take its toll. July 2nd is of course another really interesting day, as Bon of course is stated to be back up and running, but most notably is how he done that, and it is Felix who fixed him right back up. Now it is interesting that it's not Susan, of course being the one who practically built the animatronics, is not the one to fix Bon. Instead, it's Felix, which is something that is so everlastingly interesting to me, of why Felix of all people would be the one to fix Bon, not any of the other maintenance workers in the location, not even Charles. It had to be Felix. July 7th is of course another very important day, which to my knowledge is our first canonic appearance of Norman Poultrick, writing a letter to Felix Kranken about the disappearance of Susan Woodings.
Mr. Kranken, this is Norman. I'm sending you this letter on behalf of all our deal between Bunny Smiles and Cyberfund staff, and most importantly, the well-being of our Cyberfund staff. We've been getting a lot of complaints about a member of our staff going missing, who is highly associated with you and your team. Susan Woodings has been missing for a week now, and here in Cyberfund Tech we are working as hard as we can to try and manage to get in contact with her. Is there perhaps any detail you could hand us to help us locate our missing employee? I'm going to be entirely honest with you, Mr. Kranken, and tell you I have a ton of questions and suspicions of whatever is going on with your company. Whatever it is, it's making both your company and mine look bad to the public light. So again, if there's anything that could help us find Susan, write us back immediately. Thank you. I'll see you on Monday.
On July 4th, in episode 5, we see the mental spiral of Rosemary Walten. We see how her house is covered in Jack Walten posters, some with altering faces, but it is covered. A phone call is then given by Rose's sister Laura, stating how Laura could possibly take care of Sophie if Rose needed some space. However, instead, Rosemary smashes the phone across her desk, destroying the figurines of her short film of Faces of Grief.
Hey, Rose, it's Laura. Listen, I heard what's happened to Jack? I mean, I know he's missing. I just... God, Rose, I really can't even imagine how you're feeling right now. I'm so sorry about all of this. But listen to me. You don't have to go through this alone, all right? I know it's been a while since we last spoke back at the funeral, and I'm sure you don't exactly think of me as the greatest sister in the world, but please just let me help you. There's people you can talk to. And Sophie, too. Maybe I could take care of Sophie for a bit. She could stay up here and help. Just know that you have people who care for you. It will get better. I promise. You don't deserve any of it.
After Banny is decommissioned, Billy arrives at Bond's Burgers. However, 3 days later, my most anticipated incident would occur, as Lily Brooke, a young child waiting for her birthday party at Bond's Burgers, is eagerly awaiting what's going to be there for her. So of course, her father decides to take it into his own hands and make the best possible birthday at Bond's Burgers possible for his child. So he would stay late and begin to prepare Lily's birthday party. That man and that father would be Charles Brooke. And this is the devastating demise that followed him. On July 14th, the death of Charles Brooke occurs. Most of this attack is unknown and is almost theoretical. However, we do have a theory video fully explaining what could have happened this day if you want to click up in the top right hand side of your screen right now. But to put it vaguely, we know this from episode 3, as Charles's minigame, more specifically Buzu, is all about setting up Lily's birthday party. Of course, upon Bunny Farm's release, we were unaware of who Lily might be. She could have easily just been a character that was established for the Bunny Farm video game. But no, that is Charles Brooke's daughter. And in this minigame, we must stay in the dark and prepare Lily's birthday party. However, as we progress in this minigame, we encounter Bond.
What? Again, I feel like this could be related to a person trying to tell the player something, maybe even a ghost, because this game really makes it seem like the people shown on screen died.
As of course, this then notes that someone is in the Buzu animatronic. And that person is Charles Brooke.
Oh. Congratulations! You're very good at this. Right. You... Nope, that's not the difference. That's not the difference. Congratulations! You completed my game. Now, time for the prizes. Missing 0714, missing 0714, missing 0714, missing 0714, missing 07.
We then fast forward to July 17th. From a scene in episode 5, we see Sophie slowly delving down the staircase, as we hear a news report stating the disappearances of Susan Woodings and Charles Brooke. However, this is the scene where Rosemary meets Chris, our first canonical scene and voice acting element of Chris in the entire series so far.
You've been coming in all week. And I don't mean to alarm you, but Mr. Krenken has been talking about getting a restraining order. Please, I'm not here to hurt you, Rosemary. I just want to help.
You know, I designed them specifically with them in mind. But they think.
You don't have to face this alone, Rose.
You don't know what alone really means, do you?
However, we learn more about Rosemary's paintings. Cars on fire, the big bad wolf, Bond covered in blood, and Rocket, the car crash, Ed's head, but most importantly, multiple drawings of Felix in multiple ways of dying. We then learn that the creation of Bond was all down to Rosemary and Jack when they were younger. We see this sequence of Rosemary dancing with Bond, but most importantly, young Jack and Rose talking to each other, stating it's an early design, but still stating the origin of Bond.
Sophie wanted to name it Ringo, but I thought Bond sounded nicer for the restaurant name.
Look at that. Bond, huh? I like his little bow tie.
Obviously, it could use some work, but I hope the rest like it. I think this might be the one. I really do.
Oh, Rose, they'll love it.
However, 2 days later, on July 19th, would be once again one of the most devastating days in the entire series. One of the most tragic, depressing, and devastating deaths. And that is the death of Rosemary Walten. According to Spectacle, another mini-sode of the series, residents near Bonsberger's complained about music during midnight, along with lights being on, which brought speculation, as no night guards worked at Bonsberger's.
Mom and pop business.
If you're among the small Brighton community, you may have heard of Bond's Burgers, a well-known entertainment center that in fact hosted birthday parties and events in this very building. Now, if you know about this place, you also probably know about the infamous reasons its run was so short-lived. 4 months ago, around the summertime, this place opened its doors to the public for the first time, and less than a month later, it would shut its doors to the public permanently. But why? And how? Let's find out.
However, before all that happens, Rosemary proceeds to go to the lake. A lake that has appeared multiple times in this episode, most importantly in a dream sequence that Rosemary experiences with Jack on a hunting trip. Rosemary goes to this lake, kneels before it, and puts her head inside. She looks down, proceeds to see Ed and Molly's face. However, she also gets given a white hand looking to grab her. A hand that brings her to a new place. She wakes up in Wonderland. However, she is not herself. She is the sheep. She stumbles around some playground areas, Mr. Snow sitting on a swing, and also Ed and Molly standing on another side of the fence with a car in the distance. She meets her 2 youngest kids in Wonderland. She kneels before them, unable to speak, but Ed, most specifically, kneels before her and proceeds to say that she's a good mother.
I'm sorry.
You shouldn't be here.
I'm sorry.
It's not your fault. You're a good mother. You deserve a good life.
Suddenly, she wakes up, as Derek has saved her from dying. She attempted to off herself in that moment. She attempted to drown in the lake. Instead, Derek brought her back, asking her if she's okay. Instead, what Rosemary sees is Derek taking her away from the kids. So she attempts to strangle him.
Where we can be sure you're safe for a while.
I don't deserve it. There's nowhere left for me to go.
We need to get you out of here, Miss Walten. You need help. Come on up.
She loved me. For what I did, I should be dead.
Rose, please. Come on. We need to go.
Stay away from me.
Whoa, now, here. Just take it easy, okay? I'm your friend. You're not in any trouble, Miss Walten. Please. We can sort all this... Stop it!
Why couldn't you have just left me alone?
Rose!
Why should I have to stay here?
Stop, Rose!
God!
However, suddenly letting go when coming to her senses. She gets arrested and brought to the police station, where 2 officers, including Derek, would then state that Rosemary needs to be held there for a while. A young officer goes to get Officer Lopez to watch over Rosemary, as Derek has to go on a job. Instead, someone appears.
Has reality failed you once again, my dear?
we see in the My Soul video of not only that, we see that Bond had corrupted the security camera footage with this.
From the investigation up to here. God, I've been in service for about 15 years, and I've dealt with sickening, twisted cases before. But I just can't wrap my head around this one. I can't. I just don't understand. None of us understand how Mrs. Walten left the station that night. And we had 3 officers in the building as it happened. And when we checked the camera, only up from here, Rose. Take care.
With Rosemary then interacting with Bond in a way where he's appearing to her in this suit format, but then suddenly turning into a jackrabbit as the gate of her cell opens. She begins to follow the jackrabbit. The jackrabbit proceeds to walk all the way down the road, keeps going and going and going with Rosemary following. Rosemary proceeds to look up and realize that she's at Bond's Burgers. She stumbles inside, following the jackrabbit. As she's in the entrance, she looks around and sees the tiger in the corner, and also, most importantly, in the entrance, in the darkness, the jackrabbit in a more large form, luring her more and deeper into the location. She continues to walk into the dining area, where she suddenly hears a sort of breath or scribble. As she looks left of the stage, she sees Susan and Charles. However, most importantly, a show begins to happen and occur just for her. Rosemary Walten is lured all the way to the backstage and interacts with Bond the Rabbit.
I know where he is. Rosie. Follow me.
However, that's the vague way of putting that scene. This is what happens to Rosemary Walten.
If there is a natural body, there is also a spiritual body. There is also a natural body. There is also a there is also a spiritual. There is also a spiritual. There is also a spiritual body. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. The sheep obliged and joined him in his wonderland.
Rosemary was killed between 2 and 3 a.m. and was stuffed into the Shah the Sheep animatronic. Most notably, her screams are heard by Brighton locals, with police urgently arriving on the scene. However, nothing was found. At 4 a.m., Norman proceeds to call Richie. This results in another audio log from him. This is the event that causes the shutdown of Bond's Burgers. The confirmation that someone was attacked inside the walls, to which Felix's business has perished.
Hola, amigo. Is that how you say it? I never knew how to say it. Yeah. Good things are happening, my friend. The backstage is still locked. But the generator room is where we should be keeping the robots for now. Right. We actually have a new one. What's his name? Bobby the Clown. Billy the Clown. Billy. Billy. He just arrived yesterday, actually. Top of the line technology, man. I'll tell you. I was messing with their little radio thing all day. Bond seems to be working fine now. His gloves keep falling off, like not gloves. What are they called? Blue hand things. You know, the suit. And it's revealing the mech underneath. So just be careful with like the hands and stuff. Okay, whatever. We have a birthday party coming up. Birthday party on the 14th? Yeah, the 14th. We're gonna be using the Billy robot. It's actually the daughter of one of our associates. What was her name? Forgot her name. Doesn't matter. So yeah, we gotta make it look extra good in there. I might even come over, show up in the Bond costume myself. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Why don't you show up? Actually, we could stay smoking in the arcade area. You smoke, right? Yeah, whatever. Look forward to seeing you there. Take care, man. Come on, man. Where the hell have you been? Some big shit happened. Alright? Look, we're down. It's fucking bad, dude. We're shutting down. We're done. We're fucking done. Alright? Oh, God. I clocked in last night, right? Some staff were still in the restaurant, right? It's all good. It's all okay. 4 in the morning, I get a call from Norman, right, telling me the cops broke into the place, right? Some call about, like, screaming inside the fucking restaurant. Whole neighborhood was freaked out. They checked the place. Most doors were locked, so they just shrugged it off anyway. There's nobody inside. But Norman's shutting us down. He said the scene it caused was humiliating, right? Everyone's outside the fucking restaurant, claiming somebody got killed. Fucking bad, man. He gave us 3 days. We got 3 days. Shut everything down. Sorry. Oh, God. Sorry, it's been a fucking crazy night. There is, the boss came up with a new plan, alright?
He hasn't shared it with Cyberfund yet. But long story short, we gotta take all the fucking items from this place and put them in a truck and take them to the storage place somewhere. He didn't say where. It's big fucking money, dude. Right? It'll only take a few days. You in? Also, just for the record, don't tell this to anyone, okay? See you tomorrow then. See you tomorrow then. I'll be there at 6. Bonds.
3 days later, Bond's Burgers shuts down and closes its doors to the public. Felix then plans to move all the restaurant's items into the storage bunker at K9, as on July 20th, Bond's Burgers officially shuts down. Between November and December of 1974, the Spectacle News segment is broadcasted on Local 57, as then, of course, this states of the death of Rosemary Walten.
Of July 19th. As witnesses state, there were blood-curdling screams of an adult woman heard around 2 to 3 a.m. Once the police arrived and broke into the restaurant, no one was inside. A few days later, the place shut down due to budget reasons, allegedly at least. But the urban stories say much different. It's suspected that those screams belonged to one Rosemary Walten, a woman that disappeared earlier that same day, never to be found. After some time, the building has been deemed condemned. Nobody really seems interested in using this space as the jarring stories and theories are believed to drive people away. Only break-ins and vandalizing occur inside this defunct building. Though these theories still remain, that those disappearances still taunt the aura of this very place, and whatever the truth may be, the disturbing presence of Bond's Burgers.
1974 in the Walten Files lore is easily the most important year of the entire series. An inciting incident that pans across an entire year, between the creation of the Showstoppers all the way to the shutdown of the business. The business only lasting 1 month in the public eye, with the death of 3 employees, the disappearance of one of the founders, and of course, the origin of it all, the car crash that caused by the other founder, Felix Kranken, resulting in the death of Ed and Molly. This year is by far the most intriguing and most fleshed out. Even with Charles Brooks' death not being physically shown in a new animation format, in which will then be of course shown in episode 6, we still pretty much know a lot about his death and attack at the current stage. However, with the episode being entitled Behind the Smiles, I think there's more to learn about the business side of things. I think episode 6 will result in a lot of Norman. Norman is definitely a safe bet in referring to him as a good guy. He doesn't take anything from Felix. He shuts down the business as soon as something is brought to the public eye. Of course, when it's shunned upon and kind of hidden away from the public, maybe Norman could be deemed as a bad man. But in his eyes, it's probably just business. Richie's audio logs are so important to the lore, especially during this year, as these audio logs provide a sense of immersion, experiencing something through the eyes of somebody in the location, almost giving us a sense of how crazy situations were on the inside of Bond's Burgers. But now, the new chapter of this video, the progression of fear, and most importantly, the aftermath of the deaths of 1974.
Hello, BSI members and employees, and welcome to the tape that will change the future of the Bond's Burgers brand and the Bunny Smiles company for the better. That's right, after 4 long years of legal paperwork, we finally decided to use our backup plan, which we created after the tragic closure of Bond's Burgers back on July 20th, 1974. Ladies and gentlemen, we now present to you the Relocate Project.
On January 23rd, 1975, the showstoppers of Bon, Banny, Buzu, Shah, and Billy are all moved to the K9 storage facility. Bond's damage is specifically noted as possibly intentional. However, sometime in 1975, the company Bunny Smiles Games was founded, which of course would be the establishment that comes into play in the Bunny Farm arcade game. However, on June 20th, the BSI hotline is established in 1977, and most notably on September 13th, 1977, the events of the video of Hotline occur as we're introduced to David Gonzalez. David Gonzalez would have several paranormal encounters, with also being attacked by Bond. David would go into this location wandering around, just basically testing out this BSI hotline. However, on the phone with a fellow employee, he looks behind himself and sees almost some spirit watching on. The spirit then retreats off to the left-hand side, but then inviting David to delve further and to discover more. Instead of discovering something like a spirit, Buzu stands within. And proceeds to give him a little bit of a scare. To me, this is actually Charles trying to warn David, and a future scene emphasizes that. As David is recording more and more and more within K9, he encounters a little bit more of a paranormal event. David Gonzalez is chased all the way out of K9, but ultimately escapes and survives. One of the only people, as of right now that we know of, surviving an attack with Bond the Rabbit. With notes, it is now stated that David Gonzalez only survived that incident because Bond wanted him to. Bond just wanted to scare him out of the location, which is definitely an interesting thing to note in terms of the story and overall character of Bond. On July 2nd, 1978, the first tape scene in the Relocate project is created, which projected a reopening of Bond's Burgers in 1982.
Hello, BSI members and employees, and welcome to the tape that will change the future of the Bond's Burgers brand and the Bunny Smiles company for the better. That's right, after 4 long years of legal paperwork, we finally decided to use our backup plan, which we created after the tragic closure of Bond's Burgers back on July 20th, 1974. Ladies and gentlemen, we now present to you the Relocate project. But before we go into details, we want to greet all the new Bunny Smiles employees.
With the company greeting out of the way,
let's start analyzing the Relocate project by checking what has happened ever since the closure of Bond's 4 years ago. As many of you might have known from previous tapes, our beloved entertainers were safely secured in St. Juana's storage facility some months after the restaurant's closure. Later on, a good amount of business opportunities appeared, such as books, merch, animated movies. We even got a TV show. That's when Felix Kranken had the brilliant idea of restore and reprogram the robots of Bond's Burgers with the purpose of relocating them in a new restaurant that would be opened in a not-so-distant future. A pretty smart plan, right? Making enough money to eventually reopen the Bond's Burgers restaurant is no doubt a brilliant idea. So let's give it up for Felix Kranken, a man with not only a giant brain, but also a giant heart.
A few days later, on July 9th, 1978, a third tape was seen in the Relocate project is created. However, on July 12th, 1978, we would get one of, again, the most interesting incidents in the entire series, as we would see 3 volunteers of Hilary Barclay, Kevin Woodings, and Ashley Parks stumble into the K9 facility, attempting to restore the animatronics. However, this would result in the key scene, but most importantly, the death of Ashley Parks. The 4th tape of the Relocate project, Ashley Parks explores the back doors alone while Hilary and Kevin sleep. She uses the key provided by BSI, which she states she still didn't know what was for. However, curiosity gets the best of her. She explores multiple rooms until stumbling across a room with Rocket trapped in K9 wiring. A sense of trying to keep Rocket constrained by wires. This could have easily been done by Felix. Then finally, coming across Billy in the back doors. She states that she is not a chance going to go near that thing. However, she stumbles across a cassette tape, and then notes that Billy has a cassette tape in his stomach. Reluctantly, she plays the cassette tape. And what comes out of that cassette tape is something absolutely horrific.
I won't go into detail about what I find since I'm in a rush, of course, in this room number 26 or 27, I think. As you can see here, there are some spare heads. Nothing I'm interested in, to be honest. Well, this is bizarre. I can't really tell if this body is a robot or a puppet, but why is it hanging on the wall? This is really weird. This is the last door. I've never seen this clown thing before. It's really, there's absolutely no way I'm getting close to that thing. I'll probably wait till you guys see this video and come down here with me so we can take a closer. I found this. I'm pretty sure that clown thing had a cassette player installed. So I guess I'll have to be brave and try and see what this whole thing is. I don't really know why this dude has a cassette player thing installed. But my guess is that it's used for birthday parties, like, play a customized tape or something? I don't know. But we're about to find out.
Susan, Charles, Rosemary, Sophie.
The names of all 6 missing people. Jack Walten, Rosemary Walten, Charles, Susan, but most importantly, it states Sophie. And of course, Sophie is alive at this current moment. At this current stage in the series' development, Bond the Rabbit was initially going to be a text-to-speech voice, which we see at the end of episode 2, and of course in the secret video of Lucky You. So it leads me to think that this cassette tape is a hit list recorded by Bond of all the people that he wanted. However, after listening to this cassette tape, this happens.
Jack, Susan, Charles, Rosemary, Sophie.
Hello, I'm Billy, the funny movie clown. Do I see you, son? If not, then we're ready to Sheila, Sheila, there's no now.
The next day strolls around, with Hillary and Kevin just assuming that Ashley left early. Instead, she was screaming in the back rooms where no one could hear her, as she's stuffed into Billy the Clown. Between 1978 and 1979, the K9 facility begins to stop working, as 1979 is when the episode of Bond's Super Sleepover releases to the public.
It's a brand new day in Little Bond's neighborhood, and a really special one for sure. Little Bond has been waiting all day for his friends to arrive. He is planning to have a sleepover with them. He has everything set up for the perfect movie night with his friends. For this sleepover, he invited Shah, Boozoo, and Billy. Let's check again in case we don't forget any guests. Bond invited Shah, Bozu, and oh, that must be them. Now that everyone has arrived, I suppose it's time for the movie night to begin. Bond spent all his money on a really funny movie, which he hopes all of his friends will enjoy and will laugh with Little Bond. And friends watched the movie. I guess we can say they had a blast of a time.
The aftermath of 1974 is just full of blood and tears and disappearances, with of course mentioning in Bunny Farm of Ashley's disappearance just becoming an urban legend to quote-unquote keep kids out of the forest. There is so much elements of the post-1974 era of the Walten Files, which is so interesting to delve into, but that is every single timeline of the post-1974 era. However, there is another era, an era that is still yet to be explained fully, but there is still a lot to note. And that is the final chapter of this video, and that is the Bunny Farm era.
Yeah, this is the game I wanted to show you, Sophie.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I played it for a while. Thought you would enjoy it.
Thanks.
Also, they installed the machine in the basement of the building.
In December of 1981, 1982 Technology of the Future Fair is cancelled by Cyberfun Tech, as it quotes, "It is focusing on a new project." On April 15th, 1982, the Showstoppers album would plan for release. However, when we go to October 10th, 1982, we would get the death of another person. A caretaker on their very first day, the origin of this entire series in a way. Not canonically, not in the timeline, but the first death ever seen in the entire series. And that is, of course, the death of Brian Stells. The new facility caretaker, Brian Stells, drives the K9 at 12:44 a.m., deep within St. Juana's Forest. Brian would go through the K9 facility, recording his findings, saying to him that Chris said that this location was open around 78 to 79. However, upon trying to test Bond specifically, Bond proceeds to glitch out. And this is what follows.
Chris told me this place had been working since about 78, 79, somewhere around then, and that was 4 years ago, I think. So chances are it's going to smell horrendous. So, I found this thing, and I think this is good news for reloading products for the company. Although it's all like thinking about now. And most guys have seen better days. But, fortunately, diagnostic control is right here, so we can go there and see how we can do it. Now, let's check out the head of the mouth. And we'll begin with the head. Let's begin with the arm. Let's check the left arm. Yeah, the left arm. The left arm.
What was that thing? Bond proceeds to attack and kill Brian. However, it is stated that Brian is still fairly unknown. His location is completely unknown. No one knows if Brian went to Wonderland. No one knows if Brian is even still in the K9 facility. A new updated animation style of the kill of Bond picking up his ID card is noted. However, that just adds to one simple question. Why did Bond kill Brian in the first place? And that is where the facial tracking technique comes into play. As of course, Bond had a failed facial tracking with Sophie. This is the scene where Brian says he thought I was her. Bond's facial tracking feature is so underdeveloped at the Cyberfun console inside the brain, Bond thought Brian Stells was Sophie. And of course, episode 1 does state that at some point in this timeline, probably in season 2, Sophie ends up as a BSI employee, with of course the lighter sequence in the Little Bond's Neighborhood episode. So, putting matters into our own hands, Brian is more than likely stuffed away in K9 somewhere, rotting away. Is he stuffed in a suit? Presumably not, considering that Martin Walls themselves said that Brian apparently does not go to Wonderland. His soul just withers away, therefore playing into the fact of Bon saying a soul has to be tethered to a physical body. Therefore, again, noting the state from episode 5, if there's a spiritual body, there's a natural body. If there's a natural body, there's a spiritual body. Therefore, stating that Brian Stells probably just left Wonderland, didn't even go, and just swiftly died by the hands of Bon. However, there's one very key video that we haven't really alluded to yet in terms of the timeline, and that is the episode 3 of Bunny Farm. While yes, we've explained every single element of the story of what happens in Bunny Farm, we haven't really explained when this takes place. So without further ado, let's explain it. Within the Entfernt Hotel, which is where Jenny Letterson and Sophie Walten reside, they find an arcade machine called Bunny Farm. Sophie is the only remaining member of the Walten family at this point, and is of course on a lot of medication to shield her memories. To this day, it is still unaware of who put Sophie on these pills, but presumably from episode 5 stating why Sophie has to go stay with her Aunt Laura now, it is very heavily presumed that Laura Peony, who is Rosemary's sister of course, put Sophie on these pills to remove the memories of all that trauma from her brain. However, Sophie begins to play this game from Bunny Smiles Incorporated, a game that is literally her family tree. She experiences all these events over and over again. She sees her family once again. This game sequences goes over a couple of days, as Jenny and Sophie of course are in college and have multiple assignments due. Therefore, Jenny does not help Sophie a lot. Within Sophie's first playthrough, Jenny is there with her, accompanying her, stating that Jenny has played the game before, that there is some glitches within. However, I would highly doubt the glitches Jenny experienced are anything like the ones Sophie did. So without further ado, let's explain Bunny Farm.
I love barns! I want to see the pigs and the chickens and the animals and the barns and the pigs!
Bunny Farm opens up with Sophie beginning to play this game, being shown by Jenny Letterson. Jenny experiences that she has played this game previously to Sophie, however, specifically wants Sophie to play it for some specific reason. Sophie begins playing as Jenny proceeds to go work on her assignments and leave her to it. While of course playing this game, we see multiple save choices, as also we see Sophie, we see Jenny, but we also see Chris's name in the save files, noting that he has probably played these before. However, we see that as soon as Jenny leaves, Sophie begins to play these games. As she doesn't decide to play with Shaw, as that is Jenny's favorite character, which is super interesting when you realize the situation that Sophie is in with Shaw in this episode, but eventually she goes to the Billy minigame, and instead Jenny goes to do her assignment. Billy's minigame is fairly simple. You just have to grab the party hats and just prepare the location for a party. However, of course, as Sophie begins playing these minigames, the game just becomes more and more glitchy.
There we go. What's that? Jenny? Restart the level. Christ. Never mind, never mind.
We proceed to Banny, and Banny's minigame is nothing short of terrifying. The game continues on and on and on as Sophie then experiences to make Susan beautiful once again. This episode is by far the best in terms of the analog horror elements, providing a level of horror that is just unheard of in the series at the moment. A level of horror that, yes, may seem to drag, but yes, has some level of effectiveness.
That these errors act in a certain way, as if that unknown error mentioned earlier was something or someone trying to talk to me or trying to get me to do something. Like if whatever is going on wants to get me to do something, because especially because these have all occurred when I interact with the characters, could it have something to do with them? I've also noticed that I talk to myself a lot.
BSI Technical Support Audio Log Number 3, June 30th, 1974. Jeremy's birthday party finished an hour ago. I decided to stay and help the employees clean the place. This week has been strange, especially because of the opening. I find it weird that they opened the place even though Mr. Walten disappeared a few weeks ago. I hope he's doing alright. Rosemary came in today and asked if we'd seen him around. I'm pretty worried about it. Felix seems very concerned and worried too. Anyway, the birthday party, yes. Everything went according to plan. This was the first birthday party in the restaurant, and I feel it turned out pretty well. I noticed a few irregularities in the stage and in the audio animatronics. As the engineer and the person who basically built the animatronics to begin with, it was easier to notice these, especially in Bon. Something fell off. The limbs weren't moving properly. They looked stiff and odd, mainly in his right arm. It took a few more minutes to take him to the backstage, just to make sure everything's okay. I'm the only one left. Chris left some hours ago, and Felix didn't even show up. I'll leave and close the restaurant when I'm finished. I'm sure it's not going to take long.
Sophie proceeds to go on and on through these games, most importantly the Boozoo game, and of course, in my opinion, the most impactful, the Sophie and Shah interaction in hide and seek.
Am I still beautiful to you? Sophie.
I know you.
Found you.
This episode is easily the most important. Sophie's memories begin to come back to her as she states that she feels like she knows these people, a sense that she feels like she knows everything that's going on. These people feel like they really died, and then she finds out that they actually did.
Oh? Felix. Jack, what is it? Listen, I was wondering if you could do me and Rose a small favor tonight. I don't know, Jack. Today's been it's about an Molly. They have a school event tonight, a school party, and they have no one to pick them up. I need to stay at the workshop to finish the paperwork, and Rose is taking Sophie to the dentist. We were wondering if you could pick them up for the event and take them home later. Tonight? Yeah, if it's possible, of course. Sure, I can do that. Really? Yeah, sure. Oh, thanks a lot, man. You're lifesaver, Felix. It's nothing. Alright, so I'll pick them up at 5 and get them home at 9. Rose should be home by then. If she's not, you call me. Got it? Got it.
I remember this conversation.
Be wary, for this memory seems to be buried deep within your mind. You must find them, Sophie.
Oh my god, I gotta take a deep breath. That was this just got so much deeper than I thought, and now I think I know what's happening. I recognize these faces, all of them. I know all of them.
She sees houses that feels like that's her house. She feels these elements of the game trying to speak to her. Even Charles, speaking in broken English, when you see these words and letters put together, it almost sends that you can spell Sophie. The spirits remember Sophie, specifically Shah, as she states of her mother saying if she's still beautiful to her. Rosemary is still in this traumatic mental state, even in the afterlife. As suddenly, she begins to see a new character. A well is revealed as a white and pink-colored bear proceeds to rise from the well. This is Showbear.
Come one and come all, welcome to my magic fountain of memories. Step right up and enter your most repressed experiences and get ready to be amazed by my magic. Let's take a small trip down memory lane, shall we? Tell me, what is it you would like to remember?
A since retconned character, but still, just because this character is specifically retconned doesn't mean that they're not important. This is apparently the Well of Memories. Showbear is trying to remind Sophie of everything, but most importantly, a memory that is deep within her mind. A memory that started it all. The memory of her two youngest siblings.
That's Ed and Molly. That's Ed and Molly.
Sophie proceeds to remember everything. She gets the quote-unquote bad ending, and then proceeds to realize of everything that happened. Her mother, her father, her two youngest siblings, Susan and Charles. She proceeds to remember all of it. As Bunny Farm, that episode, comes to a close, we see one specific scene of Little Bon, the character Sophie plays as, standing within an altar, with Buzu, Bani, and Shah on the other side. Noting, of course, with Rocket and the two red children. Her two youngest siblings are there, her mother is there, and her family friends are there. Suddenly, Bon appears. And instead of showing the same white background and shadow figure like it does for the rest of the showstoppers, Bon is completely in shadows. This could be her family in the current state. The family could be back together except for one person, and that is of course Sophie. stating why Bond really wants to kill Sophie. Bunny Farm takes place after Brian Stells' death. Therefore, Bond is still searching for her. The Bunny Farm era is easily the most interesting and of course is the most vague in this current stage because it'll be what Season 2 is all about. The secret video of Episode 5 reveals that in that background we see Sophie's pill bottle, but we see we're in the year 1982. We see Sophie and Jenny in their new animation styles. That is Season 2. That'll be something where we maybe see the events of Bunny Farm maybe redone, or in some way re-established. But one thing is for sure, we will see Sophie Walten interact with Bond. We will see that happen. And we still to this day don't know how it plays out. And that is the full Walten Files timeline, all the way from the 1940s past 1982. That is every event, every single piece of media, every video, every incident. After me talking about each incident, you would have seen the tape. Every single tape from Guilty, every single tape from Richie. Some of this information you also may have never seen before. But this is the ultimate Walten Files timeline. This is where everything is. And that is the end of the timeline. I want to say thank you so much for watching. I have put immense loads of effort into making this video. As you can see here, I have multiple pages of notes trying to decipher every single possible meaning of what could be important to your knowledge to this story. And I really hope you have enjoyed. The amount of time this video has taken me to record and edit and eventually post is just immense, so I really would appreciate if you could hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. The amount of support we've had on the channel is absolutely incredible. I still don't know right now how long this video is. It could be 2 hours, it could even be 3 hours, considering how many tapes we have to get through in terms of the edit. But I just really hope you all have enjoyed. I tried to break it up in the most simple way possible, with dividing it up into chapters and also trying to make sure the timeline was as easy to follow as physically possible. So I really appreciate it. Let me know what you think of this video in the comments below. And if you want to see more videos like this one, if there's any other series you want to see me break down like this, do let me know. But of course, this is episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Hotline, Spectacle, Souvenir, all the videos rolled up into one beautiful present that I wanted to provide for every single one of you watching, because you all just mean the absolute world to me. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. Comment below what your favorite part of the timeline is and what you still would love to find out in the future of this series. But that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have the most amazing day. Stay safe and peace. First shot of this episode, Tammy picks this house.
Oh, what about that one?
Now, if you ask me, that is the, worst house you can pick. It has wallpaper on the outside.